and I go into that scheduled live, it for some reason gives me feedback and all types of madness. So hence I had to close the original live and come back in again. All right. So, anyways, hopefully I don't lose people like that, because sometimes people, they like get notifications for that specific live, but it didn't work out today. Anyways, I hope your weekend is going good. I'm gonna put the poll up, which is, have you dated abroad before? So kindly let me know. Have you dated abroad before? And I actually would like to hear other people's experiences. So, and if you can tell me what country you did it in, I think that would be interesting too. I'm trying to make this smaller. Yeah, I'll put it in the, I think you can make it smaller. And I'll leave it up for a minute or so, and then I'll just start talking anyways. So, anyways, all right. So, I am going to preface this whole conversation by saying that everybody's experience is going to be different. Not everybody from us, let's say a specific country, thinks the same and things like that. So I want you to have that in your head, okay? That's one. Another thing too, I'm talking from the American perspective, but I want to let you know that the some people, they might not like Americans abroad, and everybody's entitled to that, whatever they prefer, if whether they like them, they don't like them, whatever. Okay, so I by no means am saying Americans are the bee's knees, the beginning and the end, or anything like that. It's just a point of view. Okay, all right. So I'll go ahead and get started. If you haven't, please like the live by double tapping the screen. I think somebody has already liked it. Um, yeah. Okay. All right. So one of the main reasons. Hi, welcome. And if you're coming in and saying hi, feel free to say where you're coming in from. Which country. That's always, it's always nice to know. So all right. Another thing I have to make sure I point out is that if you're going to go abroad, you do not have to date. I definitely have had periods where I'm like, no, absolutely not dating anybody, you know, and that's normal. Um, so you can have that, but if I'm going to be very honest with you, more than likely you're going to eventually at some point date. Okay, so if you're doing if you've immigrated, if you've moved to another country, maybe the first year or two you might not date. And I actually encourage that. I think it's better that you kind of really, really understand your surroundings and understand things at a level where it's not surface level, because surface level is a whole complete different thing from deeply understanding local norms, meanings, and culture. Okay, so you know I definitely am an advocate for taking time out to find out where you are, how do you fit into the local context, finding out how people, move in general, and in specific, since we're talking about dating, how dating works. Okay, it is quite normal for things to run differently from where you come from. Okay, it's not the same code of books, code book or whatever. And again, surface level, when you first arrive, things might just be like, oh, okay, love is love, people are people, and da 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 da. And that can be true to a certain extent, but you should know that there is often, again, a different code book. Okay. All right. So hello, welcome. So let's start jumping in right now. Cultural differences. Okay. So cultural differences. Even when two people speak the same language, dating norms vary drastically by culture. Okay. Hello. Very drastically by culture. And I'm gonna even go, oh hey, happy. Anytime I see happy, I'm happy. Anytime I see happy. Welcome, happy. So yeah, cultural differences. That's number one. When two people speak the same language, dating norms vary drastically by culture. I'm gonna go even further and say you guys might have the same skin complexion. Okay, you guys might be two black people, or you might be an Asian American and you've gone back to China, and you guys are both Asian. You know, but that does not mean that, again, past the surface level, that you are different. Okay, and that's okay. The world has over 7 billion people. There's no way that people were going to be exactly the same. Okay, and oh, talking about happy. So you guys, I hope this also will make sense why I say that sometimes, and this is really a fact off of what I've seen. Most of the successful people I've seen abroad are married couples, not boyfriend and girlfriend, married couples. Okay, they know what is expected of each other. They have each other to rely on. Cultural norms and everything have already been navigated, as far as where they, their own situation. So, um, I'm always gonna, say that's usually who I see has the highest rate of success. Okay, and this is as somebody who has entered, other countries as a solo traveler, or a person who brought solo more than once. That's just the reality of it. Doesn't mean that you're not gonna survive, but no, it just means that you're gonna have different difficulties. It's gonna look different, okay? And like I said, like I always say before, if you're having a rough day or you're having a day where you're overstimulated, you gotta go to bed alone, most likely. Now I see some people. What happens? How they try to nurse that is that they go and pull somebody just to come and comfort them, but that usually backfires. Okay. All right. So again, um, so when we're saying, okay, yeah, you might speak the same language, but dating norms are drastically different by culture. Let's take another example. A British person and an American person. Both of you are speaking English, but your culture is completely different. Okay. Might be similar in nature, you're Western, but it's still very different. So you're gonna still have to navigate those norms. Okay? What counts as romantic or serious may differ, and this is true. Okay? So, people label things differently. Okay? So, an American might take something simple as flowers as romantic, but from what I hear from the Russian ladies, that's nothing. You know what I'm saying? So you have to understand that culture puts a very big lens on what is labeled romantic, serious, what is labeled good, what is labeled bad. That's why I say you should take your time to learn the local context. The code book is different. Okay? In some cultures, dating is primarily about marriage. This is true. So in American culture, you can quite often hear, "Oh, we're just dating for fun. We're just dating cuz just dating." In some cultures, dating is just meaning like, okay, eventually you're going to be looking for marriage. You understand? It's the precursor to marriage. You're dating for fun. What is that? You understand what I'm saying? I can even say like in Haitian culture, you don't bring any boyfriend girlfriend home. You don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, it means that, okay, eventually they will go to marriage. So you need to know that some cultures, if they see you're dating somebody within that local cultural context, it means that, okay, yeah, it's only a matter of time before they get married. Okay, being casual and stuff like that can be very American in nature. So again, you need to understand those concepts and how they work in the local context that you're in. Okay, what is seen as casual, what is seen as serious, what is seen as romantic, da 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 da. So the only way you can really, really, really learn this is by sitting and watching and learning. Okay. All right. So how people communicate affection. Ooh, this is a good one. Set boundaries or handle jealousy can clash with American norms. This is true. So, so let's talk about communicating affection. Even like PDA, public displays of affection. In some countries, that's a no-no. You don't do that. The couple could be married with 10 kids, and they will not hold hands walking down the street. It is not seen as a norm. Okay. Meanwhile, in many Western countries, like American country, you can see people hugging and kissing and da 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 da, and it's natural. That's not normal in every culture. So again, watch and adjust accordingly. Um, so jealousy. Okay, so one thing I'll say as far as that, and I'll even put a little bit of my own personal experience in it, is that some cultures, like let's say I have a male best friend. Some cultures it's a no. You understand what I'm saying? Your male best friend is your husband. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, oh, you just have a friend. No. You understand what I'm saying? So, and that can create jealousy. Or like let's talk about a one that I think could affect anybody. It's like, let's say you want to work with somebody and that person is of opposite sex. Sometimes that can create jealousy. Whereas in American culture, male, female, doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? It's just a professional relationship and stuff like that. In some cultures, it's a no. It's a no. And then you're thinking, well, I'm just working with the person, or how is this person getting in the way of my money? And, your boyfriend or your girlfriend are jealous, and you know what I'm saying? But they're thinking in the local context. Men and women don't just casually work together. Men and women are not just casually friends. This is a true aspect. Okay? So, it might get in the way of you working. It might get in the way of you doing certain things because your significant other is just doing like how other people typically do in the local society, and they're not happy that you're working with lots of men or women or etc. Okay? All right. So let's get into communication styles. And feel free to ask any question at any point. So, directness, humor, sarcasm, and emotional openness can differ across cultures. Okay? What you think is funny or what you think is okay to just express out in public, that might not be the norm in that culture. Okay? So maybe your spouse or your partner, whatever you want to refer to them, is not happy that you're making jokes, you know, it, and being so open and friendly with people, because that's not seen as normal within the local context. Okay. All right. Americans tend to be relatively open and verbal about feelings. That's American culture, okay? But that is not the norm for everybody. In some cultures, that can be seen as oversharing or even as insincere. Um, and I like to sometimes use other examples. So, like in France, you know, they're not as, let's say, open with people that they initially meet right then and there. Sometimes what I will hear is like, if like let's say you're walking around smiling, they might think that you're like dumb. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? So there's actually an example of that in like Emily in Paris. That's an American girl who moved to France and stuff like that. But anyways, so also you should know that misunderstandings can happen easily, especially with idioms or tone. Um, yeah, sometimes people can't get that. So you got to be very careful about that. All right, now this is a big one. Different expectations about gender roles. This one. So, using American culture, of course, um, in American culture, it relatively can be fluid, okay? Gender roles can be quite fluid. Women, they've had a whole, what is it, protest about, women's rights and all those things like that. Women want equal rights, and that's just how it can be in American culture. It could be quite fluid. Not in every other country, though. Okay, some countries, the roles of genders can be very rigid. Men are in this norm, women are in this norm. Okay, depending on where you decide to live, it can be traditional. It could be traditional or rigid, or it could be fluid, more like many Western countries or American country. Okay, this is something I've encountered my own self. A woman showing independence might be seen as too strong or not submissive enough. That can occur. And sometimes if you're and it depends on the culture, may depend on the individual. Okay, we don't want to say things are like completely every single person within that society. That's not true. But if sometimes you're in a culture and they feel like, in a culture where rules may be rigid for example, women, and they see you as too strong and not submissive, sometimes, again, depending on the culture and the individual, they may try to break you into falling into that role. Um, that's the reality of it. I think people don't expect stuff like that, but it does happen. It does, you know. Sometimes that's the thing, like dominance. There, where men are. There's some cultures and societies where men, you know, want to be seen obviously as dominant, and the woman is submissive. And yeah, is that KM? I haven't seen KM in so long. Hey KM, how you doing? Oh, the feminist thing. That's a good question. I'm gonna. So I've been having conflicting things. When you're asking me, do I see myself as a feminist? And I've been floating between the definitions. Am I a traditional feminist? I would say absolutely not. I actually am I against feminism? No. Um, I'm somewhere in between because I do think that roles are not necessarily a bad thing. And I actually kind of like them. But I think that they shouldn't be rigid. So that's like my own personal belief. But even as you see me, that I like traditional values and different things like that, somebody may still deem me as too independent. I'm financially independent, and I'm work wise. Yeah. So, oh yeah, Anna, yeah, Anna, I'm good. Where are you in Ghana, Anna? Let us know. But yeah, it's an important thing that we need to talk about. Yeah, sometimes, and that's one of the big conflicting things I see. Even me as a person who has traditional values, who I grew up between two cultures, American culture and Haitian culture, which is more traditional. So I guess that's also why I am the way I am, and why I kind of like, I'm really chill as far as that. But still, for some men, you know, I may still come off as too strong. Think about it. I decided to pack up my things and move to a whole nother country by myself. That in itself is like very strong willed. You understand what I'm saying? So I think a lot of people don't discuss this, but gender roles can come in heavy, and how strict a person or a couple may want to abide to those gender roles may come in. And another thing too is that, and I'm so happy you're good, KM. I'm so happy to see you. So happy to see you. Is that family plays a part in this too? Okay, so let's say you're having an issue. Let's say the fam, in American culture, it's like, okay, it's our own thing. It's our business. What we're doing is what we're doing. In other cultures, the family can get involved. Sometimes they feel like it is their right. It is their duty to get involved. Okay, and that's another thing too, is that in some cultures, you don't just marry the person. You marry the family too. You understand? It's not like America where, oh, it's just us against the world. No, 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 no. No. You understand what I'm saying? Your in-law, your mother-in-law, she becomes like your own mother too. And that could be very good in a way, but sometimes it can be very negative in a way too. You understand what I'm saying? Because their mindset is obviously going to be similar to their son or their daughter or whoever the local is. And if they are of the same belief that gender roles should be rigid and you should be, pounding something or doing something, blah, 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 and you're not doing that, they're going to be conflicted. They're gonna be like, why doesn't she want to do like the other women and do this and do that? Why is she going and having meetings with men up and down every day? And da, 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 da. My son said he's not comfortable with that. So the family can come inside too. Okay, so that's what a lot of Westerners, a lot of Americans, sometimes when they go into other cultures, especially cultures that are more traditional, they can't really grasp it. Okay, they feel like the mother-in-law or the father-in-law is too invasive, when actually that's the norm. It's the norm. Okay, it's up to you to take the time to understand these dynamics. So that's when I go and tell you, hey, please, when you're going somewhere, relax. Take time. Learn how they do in that place. It's more than just, let's say, the kente dress that you're going to wear in the wedding. It's more than just that. What is expected of you as a woman or a man inside that relationship? That's what you have to know. Okay? You need to talk to the local women, men, and understand how they deal with certain issues, or how they handle relationships, how they deal with family conflicts, all of those things. Because how they deal with family conflict in Rwanda is not the same way they will do it in the US. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, so any other questions? I hope I clarified how I feel about the whole feminist situation. Yeah, I think I'm like somewhere in the middle. I think I'm modern, traditional, something like that. I'm not Dara Smith, but I'm not, who's like a really like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Lil Kim. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like gender roles. I think that they have to be strict? No. But I do see myself being like, obviously, if I have kids, being I'm very maternal, so I want to be like, you know doing all the mommy things, and yeah, so so I'm somewhere in between the two. So anyways, and see, knowing yourself is important too, because when you start to deal with somebody, especially in a foreign context, you need to know what you want, and you got to see if you guys can meet somewhere in the middle. It's give or take, for real. Anyways. All right. So yeah, if you're not to forget anything, I want you to remember that in some cultures it could be very traditional, it could be very fluid, it could be rigid. In some cultures, being a woman who's too independent might come off too strong, not submissive enough. Some people, they might just let you go. Other people might try to break you into that role. Okay. All right. Conversely, American men might be expected to conform to certain provider or patriarchal norms that don't align with how they date back home. Okay, there's some cultures where, yeah, they might expect the woman to be submissive, but the man too, he is the provider, he is the leader, he is the this, the that. And sometimes when American men go abroad and they're used to, not having that such rigid norms where, oh, he has to pay all the bills, he has to fend the family, he has to da 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 da. It may not be so easy for them to go ahead and digress and go into that role, because that's not what they're used to. Maybe they're used to going to, I don't know, a date and paying 50-50. And in the culture that they're going to, the man pays the rent. He buys a car for his girlfriend or his wife. You know what I'm saying? He's expected to pay for a whole wedding. And in the US, it may not work that way. So that, and he has to physically defend his family, financially be there, da 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 da. That's some cultures for you. And if he doesn't do those things in some cultures, he's not seen as a, let's say, proper man. Okay, so that may be a lot of pressure for a man who is not used to such strict gender norms. Okay, it's probably like, okay, yeah, you paid a mortgage, I paid a mortgage, and you paid an electricity bill, and the girl's like, what? Excuse me? You know what I'm saying? So it goes two ways. I want to be very clear about that, okay? It goes two ways. Men and women, you're going to see different challenges when you go abroad, but you're going to see them nonetheless, okay? Does that mean that you don't date anybody abroad? No. Again, what did I say? I want you to sit and learn. Okay, KM, I agree to that. So KM says, when you become a mother, you'll be lovingly taking on a nurturing role, and your father will naturally want to provide and protect his family. So gender roles are kind of natural. Yes, but KM, I need you to get into the shoes of other people, okay? Let's look at a culture like Sweden. Sweden, like Scandinavian cultures, they're like really on the equal thing, where they give both the mother and father paternity leave. Okay, so it's not like the father goes out and he has to go and get finance. Well, both get paid anyways, but they give the mother and the father both paternity leave. They're very equal in roles and stuff like that. You can find stay-at-home dads while the mother is out working. There are some countries and cultures where that's a no-no. It's a no. You understand what I'm saying? They'll criticize you for something like that. So there might be some natural element to it, but you have to understand that the local culture dictates what's normal. Okay? I was watching something like on a TikTok or YouTube, something the other day, where this Nigerian film where this guy, he's like, he's evil. They're known for having a lot of business and money. And his wife, who had a degree, even though he takes care of her, they live in a mansion. She was like, "Oh, I just want to work because I want to work on my degree." And then he was like, "Me have my wife work for another man? Impossible." And it became this whole thing where the family got involved. How dare she? Da, 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 da. And the girl had a degree. She just wanted to work on a degree. It wasn't because she financially needed it. She just kind of wanted, to like exercise her brain muscle a little bit. But because of the local context, it was like, I'm your husband. I provide everything for you. Why would you go and work for another man? You know what I'm saying? So local norms dictate a lot. It dictates a lot. All right. Questions and comments thus far. And you can feel free to challenge me on it. I'm just saying what I've seen and etc. I feel the same with him, but again, local context. That's all I'm going to say. All right. So stereotypes about Americans. Everybody gets stereotyped. Okay. I'm going to talk about Americans because that's my, I'm American as well. So yeah. People abroad often carry preconceived ideas about Americans. Everybody, okay? Whether it's Mexicans going to America, I don't know who, Italians, French people, everybody have preconceived notions about everybody. Americans tend to be on the spotlight because Americans tend to dominate have a soft power of media. So you hear us in music, whether it's Beyonce or Taylor Swift, you see us in movies. So Americans have a large share of that. So because of that, a lot of people feel like they know Americans and they know what they want and they know how they operate and they know what America is like, even if they've never been there, even if they've never met an American person. So you need to understand this as an American who is abroad. There are stereotypes about Americans and there's lots of preconceived ideas about Americans, okay? Now, here's a big one. Ladies, I'm calling the ladies. Okay, I'm gonna say the whole sentence and then I'm gonna go ahead and delve into this one for the ladies because I've seen this a lot abroad. Some might assume Americans are rich, promiscuous, or only there to have fun. Okay, rich, promiscuous, those, and the fun one, yeah. Rich and promiscuous. The rich one, it affects both male and female abroad. Okay, people sometimes think that because while America is actually one of the wealthiest nations ever in the history of the world, that's true. That's a fact. Okay, but they think that everybody has like a, not everybody thinks this, but they think that a lot of, or pretty much every American that they meet has like some untapped has some untapped type of financial resource. Like you're gonna have money because you're from America, but they don't really realize how these dynamics work, okay? And poverty in America. So people have an assumption that Americans are rich. Promiscuous. This is a big one for the ladies, okay? People sometimes think that American girls are just, again, promiscuous, easy. So sometimes that will actually put you in a predicament where people are going to think that you are that way. You may not necessarily be that way, but they're going to think, oh, well, she's American, so it's not going to be difficult. That happens. And, I'm going to be very, very honest. Sometimes I've actually seen the stereotype be true. I've seen people come for like Dirty December. They're like, oh, wait a minute. And when they see that, they think that all American girls are like that. So, that has given me some problems as well because they think that I'm like that because they've seen, and I've seen it too, other American girls abroad who are like, as soon as they land in the car, wait a minute. You don't mean where you come from. Not necessarily true. A dangerous stereotype, but I would have to be honest and say that I cannot say that I haven't seen this happen. Okay? All right. So Others may want to date you for the passport, visa opportunity, or status. I want to, before I even get into this one, some people probably don't care about your passport. Some people don't care that you're American. Some people, so let's get that straight. Not everybody wants to do that, but I'm going to be very, very real with you. Do some people want to do that? Yes. Yes. All right. So next, it can be hard to tell who's genuine or who's motivated by something else. It can be. Because people, human nature, just like where you come from, and you're dealing with your own people. People like to pretend. People may not tell you directly that they want this specific thing from you. Maybe it might be your money. And I'm talking about dating within your own culture. It might be your money. It might be your status. It might be your this. It might be your that. But they're not going to tell you that they just want you because you have a G-Wagon. It applies abroad as well. Okay? All right. Questions? I hope I'm not being too... But any questions so far? Or comments, should I say. Again, you can be counter argument. You can counter my argument. But just some things I've noticed. Okay? All right, so the transient lifestyle. So if you're an expat traveler or digital nomad, whatever you want to refer to yourself as far as that, stability is hard to find. It can be hard to find because while you're moving around, you're not in a stable place. So you may move every few months or plan to return home eventually. Let's say you're just planning to be here for, a year, 2 years. You have a job assignment or something that, so that helps to make it hard. Locals see you as temporary or not worth investing in emotionally. Some people might feel that way. Some people might feel the opposite way. And yeah, so other expats may also be short term, making it hard to build something lasting. So I'm talking about like romantic relationships, but you also see this in personal relationships. Sometimes, funny enough, I was talking about contingency plans the last 2 lives. People go back home for various reasons, planned and unplanned. So romantic wise, friend wise, it kind of makes it hard to build certain things because the person just leaves or they're gone back home 6 months, or you know what I'm saying? So that can be a quite difficult pillar of that type of lifestyle. Okay. All right. So emotional fatigue and loneliness. Loneliness, that's a big one. I see it all the time. I experienced it too. Being far from your cultural reference points can make dating more draining. Yeah, a lot of times you don't know how much you rely on certain reference points or signs to make things or dating easier because you're like, okay, well, she agreed to a third date, so that means that things are going good. Da, 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 da. Like, let's say in American culture, right? But in another culture, that might not mean nothing. You know what I'm saying? So you also might miss the ease of shared humor, slang, or values, like the local things, the common ground things that may be eliminated because you're in a different culture or context. Okay, so it might fatigue you a little bit more because you're gonna have to put in a little bit more effort in order to be, more on the same, on more equilibrium, have more equilibrium between each other, and to have more understanding. Okay, so let me see. Have you dated abroad? Let's see. 37% says yes. 63% says no. Yeah, it's a very yeah. Okay, so let's see. All right. The dating pool can feel small. Okay, so the dating pool can feel small, especially if you're looking for someone with a similar worldview or background. Dating scene is different wherever you are. Yeah. Yes, KM. Yes. This is where the dating scene is different wherever you are. Okay. So and yeah, so the dating pool can feel small, especially if you're looking for someone with a similar worldview or background. Not everybody. Okay, so let me try to make examples. So, okay, you're dating in the local pool, okay? You obviously you're well traveled, or you've left your continent, or you've left where you've come from and stuff like that. So you have a little travel under your belt and things like that. Those there might be some people who they're not as well traveled, okay? They don't have such a, varied worldview as you, or they don't have a similar worldview as you. And one of the reasons why is because maybe they haven't really left their country or their region. You know what I'm saying? So how can you expect them to understand and know things when they haven't crossed the notion like you have? You understand what I'm saying? And it's not something to be elitist, but it's true. Like, experience helps to mold people. And if somebody has not had such varied, like you, that you studied abroad in France and Australia and all those different things like that, so you know how people move in Europe, and you know how people move in Oceania and stuff like that. Like, so somebody who, let's say they're from Zimbabwe and they haven't left the Southern African region, how are you going to expect for them to understand your worldview or your background? You know what I'm saying? So those things can be challenging. All right. So power dynamics. Sometimes I hope you guys understand it. If you don't, ask me for clarification because I'll give it. All right, so power dynamics. So sometimes there's an unspoken imbalance. And I think this can also play into what I said before about the traditional roles and the fluid roles. But let's talk about power dynamics. Okay. Um, if you earn in USD or have more mobility, it can create tension. Okay. So let's talk about the mobility one. You have a US passport and you're visa free to X amount of countries, but they have a passport that doesn't. That can create tension. It can. I'm telling you. You understand what I'm saying? Because now, when you guys are going somewhere, they have to move differently, or they have to go into a different line, or da 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 da. It can create tension. Yeah. You have the power of the U.S. dollar, and let's say they're in a currency where it's weaker. That can also create tension. There's a power imbalance. You may wonder if someone's attracted to you or your lifestyle. Maybe they're interested in traveling too, and they didn't know how they was gonna go about it, but they want to join too. Maybe you know what I'm saying, and maybe they're attracted to that. Maybe they might be attracted to you, or maybe you might be attracted to both, but maybe it might be your lifestyle. This can lead to trust issues or cautiousness that prevents deeper connection. Okay. All right. So identity and adaptation. Living abroad can often changes who you are. True, true, true. But not always in sync with potential partners. So yeah, it could be you could be growing, and your mind is growing, and your experiences are making you into a new person. But that doesn't mean it's always in sync with potential partners. Okay, because maybe they're in their local place. So it's not no new stimuli that's changing their mindset and things like that. Whereas for you, it's different. You're in a new place, new stimuli. You're changing your views, and different things like that. So you guys not being in sync, and one person going through this rapid transition while one person is not, again, that can create an issue. You understand what I'm saying? Now, this is where, like, when I say, okay, if you go as a married couple, um, you're probably not going to have to deal with that, because both of you are in this new environment, in this new situation, and you're kind of going through these things together. So yeah. All right. So you might evolve faster than someone rooted in their local culture, obviously. And finding a partner who understands your hybrid identity, not fully American, not fully local, can be tough. Okay. So maybe you could be like me, who I'm adapted to the local culture. I cook some of the local food. I enjoy a lot of the local cultural norms, but I also enjoy certain things that come from America. Probably a spouse or a partner, they can't understand the hybrid personality. They could understand the parts of Jesse that likes local culture and wears local dress and do all those types of things, but they don't really understand the American aspect of me. Because I mean, how can you really fully understand a place you haven't been to? It can be tough. All right, so For me, I think that's pretty much the main points. So, okay, so Caleb said there are different expectations in different cultures and countries. A single woman in her 30s is not weird in the West. In Africa, they say, "What happened? Why are you not married?" Yes! Caleb, I love you. You see, I'm forgetting certain things, and then you reminded me of it. Yes, 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 yes. This is a very key example, okay? So, like, for example, I'm a woman in my 30s. So, and I'm not married. So people might, in America say, okay, cool. She's, maybe they could give you the excuse. She's still finding herself, or she doesn't want to get married, or, da da da. And it could be accepted, right? And KM's African. You're from East Africa, right, KM? Like, and some Caribbean people, they say the same thing too, but they'll be like, she's 30 and she's not married. Like, what's wrong with her? You understand what I'm saying? Like, so that could be a real thing. You know what I'm saying? You see how culture in the local place, the perspective is so important. Because America, okay, nobody might not stone me because I'm 30 and unmarried, but in like, some Asian cultures or some African cultures, I might be like, so what happened? Like, why are you so strange? So yeah, those are so. And then maybe if somebody, like, let's say somebody takes you on, you in your 30s and you're unmarried and you're halfway across the world, they think that they're getting a defective one. You know what I'm saying? So that those are like real stuff. Like, people don't think about those things. So. But Cam, you got me on that one. But yeah, those are some of the main things. Cultural differences, communication styles, different expectations about gender roles. That's big. Um, Stereotypes, that the way that people may perceive you going into relationships. Okay. You having that nomadic or transient lifestyle, oh, maybe they might go back, or da 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 da. All types of things, and emotional fatigue and loneliness. Okay, let's see. Oh, if you're married, a woman older than 25, if you marry as a woman older than 25, you're a leftover woman in China. Some cultures, yeah, that's not shocking. And in some other cultures, they feel that way too. Like, it's like, you should be grateful, you know? So that, like me, like, again, me as a 30 plus woman abroad, like, I know some people might perceive me as that, you know? That's the complexities of it all, you know what I'm saying? But what are the ways, let's talk about what are the ways that you could actually counter some of this stuff. Find somebody from a similar culture or experience from you. Maybe it might be a local man who lived abroad. And let's say you're in Cameroon or Nigeria. Find a Nigerian American, or find somebody who lived in Nigeria 20 years. I guarantee you there'll be a lot more understanding to your identity because they understand the dynamics there. They can understand that, okay, in America, it's not odd to find a woman who's 32 and not married. And it doesn't mean that she's a leftover woman or a bad woman or something like that. I actually know somebody in Nigeria who, she's a Black American woman, and she's 34 or 35, and she just got married to a Nigerian guy. And she has a kid and everything like that. And I think that, honestly, in that dynamic is interesting because some cultures do not want women who have kids from somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Outside of that particular marriage and 30 plus. And da, da, da. But she found a Nigerian American, a guy who had been living in Nigeria in America for a long time, and he brought her back home, and it was okay that she already had a son from a previous relationship, and that she was 30 plus. So you know what I'm saying? And this let me tell you guys what I see on the ground. So usually when I talk to diaspora women, I usually hear, like, there's this one girl. She's a lawyer. She's from the US. She's a lawyer who teaches in France. I have to send her a message. She's a lawyer who teaches in France, but she also lives between Accra and France, okay? And she says, she swears by it, her sweet spot is she likes Ghanaian men, but Ghanaian American, because he just understands her. He just understands her. And usually what I'm hearing around the diaspora grapevine, it doesn't matter what the country is that they can have a man who is, you know, obviously from the local culture, so they navigate, they understand the local culture, but they also have been abroad for 10, 20 years, so they understand where you're coming from too. So it's like the perfect medium. Okay. So, and this may not be always the case, and maybe it might be a local person who, you know, they understand all these things and all that stuff. But usually, what I usually hear, and that's what I usually hear, and it works well for the men as well too, because I have a friend. He told me he has a diaspora friend in Ghana, and he said, and he's in a successful relationship right now, and the relationship is with a girl who, um, she's a Ghanaian American. So that might be a soft place to start, because then, you know, the complications may not be so rigid. You know what I'm saying? So there's always exceptions, so you have to always think about that too. It's not like one fits all. There's always exceptions. We're talking in a very generalized sense, okay? So there's always exceptions, but don't make the mistake thinking that that exception is the rule. Oh, I hope I verbalized myself well there. All right. Yeah, so again, power dynamics. Sometimes there's an unspoken imbalance. Not everything is said. I think one thing I was saying during one live, not one live, some of my videos where I talk about the dynamics of culture, is that some cultures do not say things directly. Not every culture is German, Swiss, or American or British, where they, you know, they just say things directly. Sometimes things are unspoken, okay? And that's a dynamic of culture. There's actually a whole textbook on it, okay? And, and, you know, some cultures, they might not say something, but they kind of expect for you to be on the same wavelength and kind of know. Some things they don't say, okay? And you supposed to just know, like I said, you know, the whole power balance, dynamic things, gender norms. You're supposed to know. How do you know? Again, pay attention. Don't just go ahead and dive in. And even if you were reading about a culture or a people before you got there, let me tell you something. The stuff that you're seeing on TikTok and Instagram is just, again, surface level. You don't, not, surface level, okay? You don't really know until you're in the mix. You start talking to people. You start seeing how people handle conflict. You don't know yet. You seen stuff on Instagram, okay? Gives you a nice surface level research and things like that, but you don't know anything yet. Sometimes it takes people like several years before they can really understand why people in a certain culture do what they do. Because nobody's like, oh yeah, you know, not everybody's an anthropologist, not everybody's, so you see, you watch, you learn. Simple. You steady, you quiet. You don't say you just sit there, you watch, you learn. All right, so any questions? Okay, I love Chaos questions. This She said, this reminds me of 90 Day Fiance. You can tell who is there for love and who is there for green card. You know, I actually hate that show. I think that show is so tacky. But yeah, my mom loves that show, by the way. You can often sense who's there. And honestly, I think a lot of the people on 90 Day Fiance are there for dubious means. To be honest, there's only a few people who I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So like that British girl who dated that guy who I think he's half white, half black. That girl, she was there for honest reasons. She actually was from a well-to-do family in England, and she left to go and follow him. I think in L.A. or something like that. And you know, she's one of the good examples. But then when I look at some of the other examples, hey, you know, but who am I? I don't know anything. So yeah. In fact, that 90 Day Fiance, people should actually go watch that show. And I think in a way you could actually indirectly learn stuff. But yeah. Those are Michael and Angela, those ones. Oh, God. What's the other one? There was another one who was rapping, and he was with this lady who I think she had a son who was like older than him or the same age. Kimberly and something. Okay, so when like for example, the whole Angela and Michael thing, that's a prime example of not knowing your local cultural norms. Because many people, if you know, like Nigerian people, they take babies very seriously. And they said the lady could not, you know, have children. She's obviously in her 50s. She had like one egg. But anyway, at the end, she ended up being toxic too. So, yeah, no comment. you, you know, like, no comment about that. But yeah, so, all right. So, any other question, guys? 'Cause I'm in the live, but yeah, I just want you guys to be cognizant of all these things that we were just talking about. Oh, as Michael and Angela, that I think honestly it was toxic all around. So, oh my god. These are double tap your full screen to like the live. Touch the three dots in the top right corner. Okay, thank you, D. I love D. I think I actually have to email you too. I gotta go and email you today. Um, yeah. So identity and adaptation. That's another thing too. Everything could be changed. I think D came to the late to the live. The notification probably changed because I changed the live. I've been having a lot of audio feedback problems and things like that. Okay. So yeah, cultural differences, communication styles, different expectations about gender roles, stereotypes about Americans, transient lifestyle. See, transient lifestyle, emotional fatigue and loneliness, power dynamics, identity and adaptation. All things you points that you might actually have differences that can make dating as an American abroad and how it can be difficult. Yeah, I think a lot of people just got the notification because I think it just flushed a whole bunch of people in. But yeah, I don't know if you're coming late to the live, let me know. I can kind of like repeat some of the stuff in there. But yeah, I think a lot of people don't talk about that, but they should. I mean, they don't have to. Nobody has to talk about anything, but it's just that I think a lot of people think that being abroad in general is like eat, love, pray. Like they think it's just like I was talking to somebody yesterday. They think it's an extended vacation. They don't understand that it takes a lot of work. Even what outside of dating, in dating, it takes a lot of work. More than normal because you're in a whole completely different environment. Just like how we're talking about with the whole dating thing. Like, it's not like how things are back. And, like, for example, people in America, isn't dating in Atlanta different dating than dating in New York? Like, dating in New York is so aggressive. Dating in New York is so aggressive. And in Atlanta, there's a lot of. I have a friend, he works in health and HIV, and what he told me, I probably would never want to. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, so if dating in New York and Atlanta can be so drastically different, how you think dating in another country is gonna be easy peasy lemon squeezy? You think everybody where you come from just have a mental, disability or disadvantage that makes them difficult? No, human nature. I always will tell you guys this: human nature plays a role in a lot of things. Culture plays a role in a lot of things. You just don't know. And like I said, if you think that if you're just going off of what social media is telling you and stuff like that, there's so many people who they don't, unless they even like influencers and stuff like that, they don't tell you everything. I don't even tell you everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't tell you every single detail of their life. That, you know what I'm saying? And then there's some situations where people have that could have been negative, positive, whatever, and they don't set up a camera and record and sit and talk to you guys. So you have to be cognizant of that. You know what I'm saying? Please kindly do that for me. Understand that being abroad takes work. So, all right. With that being said, guys, it was nice see you guys so much. Thank you for coming to the live. Cam, I'm so happy to see you. D, nice to see you. Happy, all my favorite people. So I will save the live. So if you want to go ahead and review it or share it, you're free to do so. But yeah, have a nice Saturday. Saturday in most places. And you guys can give me feedback. Let me know how you like live. And yeah. All right, guys. See you soon. Bye.